my world that I want to have a little pride in. My world, and it's not a place I have to hide in. Life's not worth a damn till you can say I am what I am.
Good afternoon and welcome to Dublin City FM. You're listening to LGBTQ Life, as always, with myself, Mick Fitzgerald. Very shortly we'll be talking to our very good friend and Tenny director Claire Farrell. But I want to just say I want to wish the very, very best to our good friend Aisling. Now, Aisling normally does the desk for me at this time of the day, but I believe that Aisling was attacked this morning on the Halfpenny Bridge. We hope she's okay. Dreadful shock. Nobody should have to put up with that. She's such a wonderful colleague, a very professional desk operator, and an all-round wonderful human being. So, Aisling, our very, very best wishes from LGBTQ Life and everybody down here at the station. Get yourself right, because we want you back again. But today's guest is somebody that has been on the programme for several times before, a valued colleague from the days in Tenny, and a good friend, and dare I say it, even an old school friend in one sense of the word, Claire Farrell. Claire, welcome back again.
Thanks very much, Mick. Glad to be here.
Claire, to show you again what a small world it is for us Northsiders, I had another colleague of yours on last Wednesday on Council Matters, Jeff Johnston, who I gather is making a little bit of a name for himself up there in for Fine Gael and Dublin Bay North.
I know Jeff well. He's a great young lad, and he's out there. He's a local area representative at the moment, and he's out there trying to establish himself in the Clontarf constituency. Or ward, I should say.
Yeah, well, it's great to see young people coming through in politics, isn't it?
And and he is good. I mean, he's devoting himself almost totally to politics, so I wish him well.
Well, I met Jeff and I. We first encountered each other, is the way I would call it, at the general election in 2016. If you remember, when Vincent Browne rocked up to Clontarf Castle, and he had that controversial meeting where people were, the police were called. It wasn't even outside.
I was away at that. I remember.
No, people were a certain Senate candidate was saying that the right to water, people were photographing them, and then the police were called and cameras were confiscated.
I remember. I heard all about it. Well, as I say, I was abroad at the time. But,
as we say, a bit of a tempest in a teacup.
Yeah.
Clay, you're a you have been for a while now, but you're a director of Tenny, and we want to pay. Tenny has. It's got a new chair and it's got a new board as it would every year. But we want Browden Giambroni, who was a force of nature in the campaign for gender recognition. Browden's moved on, and you've got a new chair. And
we're not a new chair. We have a new CEO.
Apologies, a new CEO.
Stephen. Very good guy. Yeah, very excellent guy.
And he's been involved with Tenny in a what I would call a parallel capacity over many years.
Yes, he has contributed to work of ours over the years, and he's come to the organisation with a huge background, and we're actually beginning to see the results of that now.
He's got a law background, hasn't he? A civil liberties background.
He has, exactly. And it took him a little while to find his feet. Yeah. I mean, when anyone joins Tenny, they hit the ground running. Mm-hmm. There's so much work to be done. Mm-hmm. And I suppose he was nearly a little overwhelmed in the beginning, but he's doing a great job.
I think I first came across Stephen, and you'll remember this. This goes back to the time when there was a launch of a booklet called Equality and Identity. In Wood Quay, and he was involved there at the time as well.
He was.
I think he was with Civil Liberties, was it?
Yes, he was until he joined us in Tenny. And hopefully he'll have many good, productive years. And he was very involved in doing the TENI submission to the gender review group.
Yeah. The other person who has been very, how can I put it, a very robust worker with TENI has again moved on, and that's Turin.
Oh yes, Turin has landed herself a big job in London. She's working for Stonewall.
Yep.
And her work now has taken her all over the UK.
Excellent.
So I think she likes travelling anyway. So I think she'll be getting plenty of it.
Yeah.
We wish her well, of course. Sorry that we lost her. But, I suppose that's the nature of these things.
Well, I don't know if you know this, but I first came across Turin on social media, and she was telling about how she was being dreadfully discriminated against at DCU by some, dare I say it, student politician who was really being abusive and obnoxious about the whole gender issue. And the great thing about Turin is she's transcended all of that, and as I say, not held back and gone on to other things.
Absolutely, and she was writing for GCN there for quite a while. And I know she'll do well in London. I've no doubt about that. Yeah.
And of course, the other person we have to pay tribute to is the 2018 Grand Marshal of Dublin, LGBTQ+.
Sarah Phillips.
Sarah Phillips, it's a...
Yeah, well, I think it's more than well deserved. I think, in fact, it's long overdue, really. And I'm delighted that Sarah is the Grand Marshal. And it's recognition for the trans community as well.
Yeah. Well, here's one for you again, because I'm pretty sure you went to it. Do you remember when about 4 or 5 years ago at the Fringe Festival they had a benefit for the last night of the Fringe, and they had the Hootenanny for and TENI with the benefit.
Yes.
Well, my mate James, who I actually told him to put TENI as the beneficiary, we were just talking about 3 or 4 months ago, and he thanked me for introducing him to TENI. He said because the people he met through TENI was an eye-opener. This is a guy who's been to the same school as Sarah, Prince William's wife.
Oh.
So he's not, and he's this is a man who's been around an awful lot of places, and he particularly remembered Ben. And
Ben,
and he said the people he met in TENI were some of the greatest characters that he had met. So it just goes to show you, doesn't it?
Ben's a great stalwart. He's actually now working in Trinity College.
Is he?
Yeah.
I'll give my best to Ben.
I will indeed. Yeah, absolutely.
So, but it shows you, going back to the days of, when I first came across TENI was about, I first came across TENI in 2010, 11 when I met Vanessa, and we were doing a movie review when I was with another radio station. It was a nebulous world then, in the sense that people had hopes and aspirations, and those aspirations turned into reality in 2015. It's an extraordinary piece of progress, isn't it?
Well, I can remember being in here talking to you and saying what we would like to get and what we really wanted, not really believing that it was going to happen. But everything changed in 2015. As a result, you can see every day of the week now there's trans visibility.
Oh, absolutely.
Which wasn't there before. So we've come a long way.
Yeah, well, dare I say it, and I can remember. I think it was about 2013, and I was with Broden at the time, and we were shocked because GCN had written an article. Should trans be in the LGBT? And now that question doesn't even arise. No. But that's how difficult it was, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, gosh, I'm 40 years working on trans matters, and I'll tell you, 40 years is a hell of a long time. And 40 years ago, we were not visible at all. We were skulking around, trying not to be noticed. All that kind of thing. Oh no, it's a different world now.
Yeah. Well, this is why before we're going to be talking about the Gender Recognition Act review, but something I just want to put to you, because you do have a background in politics and you've never hidden about that. You're a former Dublin City Councillor.
Yes.
I'm of the view that now that we have Leo as the Taoiseach, whatever you think of his politics, whatever you think of his economics, I think Leo is a man who understands human rights. And I would say clearly to Leo and any other subsequent Taoiseach, while I'm not in favour of the Senate, and you've got a certain number of nominees, I think one of those nominees should be reserved for the LGBT community. The LGBT community have earned the right. How do you feel about that, Sarah?
Oh, absolutely. And even more specifically, I really believe that there should be a trans person.
There should
be, because maybe a Taoiseach's nominee or something like that. But I think, we need to, look, the whole world is completely different today, and people like myself, a trans woman, of course I'm interested in being in the Shannon if I could be. I've already spoken to Leo about that, and certainly if he does call an election anytime soon, I would be in there looking for a nomination.
Well, I was going to say, and if he does, I cannot think of a better person. Well, I could think of a few that would be very, very close.
You're too kind.
Yeah, but no, I think people have earned that right and respect.
That's right. Yeah.
And I can remember back in the day when Gareth Fitzgerald was one of my lecturers, and he was explaining to us why the Senate was created. And while there was a certain element of an expert chamber there, which of course a trans person would bring, there was also a huge element of minority communities that would not get elected through the popular system.
That's right.
And that is, so if we want to revive that spirit of the nation, that's a great way to do it.
It is the real purpose of the Shannon. And we should have people like LGBT people in there. I think there are some, but they're not in there representing the LGBT community, and that's really what we need.
Oh yeah, I mean, let's be honest, we can remember when people got elected a couple of years ago, that was the first out LGBT person ever to be elected in Ireland, and then of course both of them got John Lyons and Dominic Hannigan both lost their seats very sadly. So
that's right.
And then Jerry Buttimer lost his, but he's now in the Senate.
So
we still have Leo, but
we have, and Leo is, I mean, he's tremendous. The fact that he's gay is neither here nor there when it comes to his work, and I think that's evident for anybody to see. Now I'm a Fine Gaeler, so I suppose I'm slightly biased, but I think he's doing a fantastic job. No doubt at all about that.
Well, it's strange, leaving aside the extreme left who who are critical of most things anyway, of just about everything. But it's funny, because I've got a couple of YouTube channels, whenever I get criticism coming in of Leo, it is always around three things, or two things: race and sexual orientation.
Shocking.
It really, in this day and age, it's unbelievable.
It's very disappointing to think that is still around today. It shouldn't be. It should have no part in society.
And apart from anything, the man is Irish. That's all. I mean, I got a thing yesterday. I won't go into the details of how and when, but the first thing they mentioned, apart from the sexual was the sexual orientation. The second thing was Indian.
I've seen that.
It's disgraceful, isn't it?
It is. It's wrong. It's totally wrong. As you say, the man is Irish. His mother is from Waterford.
I mean, again, it's interesting, isn't it? Devil Era never got that, and he was born in America.
That's true. Far be it from me to comment on that.
Oh, I appreciate that. But Claire, when the Act was passed, Gender Recognition Act was passed in 2015 to delight and surprise. Part of the process of that was that it would be reviewed in 3 years' time. Now, Regina Doherty, I haven't met Regina very much, so I can't comment too. But
lovely person.
She seems to have grasped the nettle of this very, very well. tell us what's your impressions of Regina in that sense of the word, in relation to particularly the trans
Well,
community?
I've had a few discussions with Regina about the Gender Recognition Act,
Yeah.
and she is very keen to bring it forward and advance it.
Yeah.
In particular, she wants to create an environment for children,
Yep.
youth and children, and she's very serious about doing this, and wants it done as quickly as possible.
Yep.
And I think that's why she set up the Gender Recognition Review Group. And they've been working hard on it. I'm aware of that, but unfortunately, I say unfortunately because there's always officials involved in these things, and the officials are not always they don't always play ball. That's what I
we
was
saw
saying.
the original Greg, wasn't it? I mean,
It was awful.
Oh,
Yeah,
God,
it was awful.
Well, it was a bureaucratic approach for bureaucrats,
Yeah.
and it was.
Well, I think now the present group that's set up are very good in general, and they've got through a lot of stuff, I believe, although I don't actually know any details. But I'm told now whether they can get it to the final stages, and I know they've only 2 more meetings to hold before they have to do their report to the minister.
Yep. Let's just look at the basic details. The review of the Act, it's going to cover issues such as gender recognition for children younger than 16, which means that they can't technically make it. They're not covered by the original
No,
Act.
not at all.
Yeah, and then there's arrangements for 16 and 17-year-olds. Plus, it also is now.
Those arrangements are very onerous in their own way. They require a court order. They require 2 medical certificates. You know, that shouldn't be part of a gender recognition at all.
Yeah, well, that was something I was going to ask you, because while I was looking into, shall we say, politics that is going on at the moment, which we're not going to comment on, there is a concept that was brought in, and it was changed in the 2017 Sexual Offences Act, that people with certain intellectual capacities, even as adults, and I'm presuming that anybody under the 16, 17-year-olds would essentially come into the same legal definition, and that is that they are protected individuals. Is that the case? In other words, they can't make a decision for themselves, and they can't technically. Their parents can't either. They need a court order.
Well, they need a court order.
Yeah.
That's the current situation, and there's nothing for any children under that age at all. There's nothing at all, and that is really seriously remiss. I remember at the time talking to the Minister of State, Kevin Humphreys, and I asked him why they weren't dealing with it. Children. And what he said to me at the time was simply this: we don't have the time.
That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. Now, they have the time now.
They absolutely have the time.
Yeah. And I know that the minister is, Regina Doherty, is actually very keen to get arrangements in place for children of all ages.
Yeah. Does it come completely within her competency, or does some of it overlap into Catherine Sapone's?
Well, it would probably.
Yeah.
And Catherine Sapone's officials are sitting on that group.
Yeah.
As are the Minister for Justice and so on. But I'm never very happy when there are too many officials involved.
Understandably.
Basically because many of them do not understand the issues.
Yeah.
They don't understand what it is to be trans.
Yeah. Well, in many respects, and this is what we learned from the history of the campaign for gender recognition, is that it changed, and I give a lot of credit to Kevin Humphreys in this regard, because because Joanna Tuffy, who had been there before, I was less confident about, in the sense that Kevin seemed to he seemed to turn it around and say, let's make this people-centred, rather
Yes.
whereas before that it was let's regulatory
He was good too, because he consulted with Tenny
Yes, that's what I
quite
mean.
a bit
yes,
at the time,
Yeah.
and educated himself about it. And I talked to Joan Burton more recently, and we were discussing that whole period, and she said, "Look," she said, I knew nothing about trans people.
We knew that. Yeah, John.
I was going to say that was obvious, but I did say we knew that.
Yeah,
And we set about trying to educate herself and others.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
But
So-
look, we came a long way then, but we must go
Absolutely.
that bit further now and bring children into it.
Yeah, but, well, I want to take just a general point that, shall we say, the naysayers are coming out with. Well, there's, people are now saying that it's just a lifestyle choice. How offensive is that?
Very,
Yeah,
very,
yeah.
absolutely very. Why would I,
Yeah,
in a man's world,
yeah,
have chosen to be a woman?
yeah.
As
that's
a
because it
lifestyle.
used- yeah,
As a
yeah.
lifestyle. I mean, you wouldn't do it.
Yeah. Well,
You
we
know.
used to rationalise that away by saying, well, that's mental illness, didn't we?
I know. Definitely, no.
Yeah.
I knew from a very young age that I was different. I didn't have a vocabulary, but I mean, I eventually, over time, I developed a vocabulary.
Of course.
And I knew how different I was. No, it's nothing to do with lifestyle. It is who you are. Yeah, and I think the world has to be made easier for people like ourselves.
I've had a look through very briefly, and there's been quite a few submissions to the Gender Recognition Act review. From a whole range of organisations, from
Yes.
the National Youth Council, from the Girl Guides, from
Yeah.
Amnesty, from Tenny, of course.
Yes.
You were involved in drafting, I gather, the Fine Gael one. I haven't seen one from
was.
Fianna Fáil. I have seen one from Sinn Féin,
Yeah.
but I haven't seen one from Fianna Fáil.
Yeah.
Tell us what did your because I believe it's available on the internet anyway. So,
That's right, yeah.
If you could just give us what was the salient points that you were making, and you wanted the
Well, we want
review to take
arrangement.
on
In
board.
particular, we want arrangements for children between 16 and 17. Eliminate the court order business and allow 16, 17-year-olds to choose their gender. And move on and get recognition and get all that goes with that.
The same rights.
Same rights as adults. Yeah, and we want the same for under 16.
Yeah.
With parental consent, and that sometimes can be difficult because you might not get two parents to agree
Sure.
on those situations, both a parent or guardian or whoever. But that's what we're looking for. That's what we want. And the earlier a child is recognised in the gender that they believe they're in, that is their gender, then the sooner that's done, the better.
Yeah, well, that was one of the things I learned from my time with Tenny is that particularly if it's going to be male to female transition, the earlier you can get somebody,
Absolutely.
the better chance that they have, because then you don't have large hands and feet and all of that, and people develop almost organically in the
That's right.
so that when
You can introduce blockers that can prevent puberty, or prevent it in the sense that you block it, you stop it. If there's a doubt about if the person, for example, felt later on, oh no, I can't go through with this, they can undo it all, and carry on. That. But I mean, at the moment, you can do nothing.
Yeah. And how has this panned out in certain lifestyle areas? Because I remember when the original recommendations came in, there was great controversy about sport, and our good friend Victoria. I can remember talking to Victoria, and all she wanted to do was be able to play golf. And they were putting in a block on that in the sense that they were saying, well, the golf course can, they can decide to, to disbar you for because you're, we don't.
Well, Victoria Mullen is in fact a member of what's it, Newlands Golf Club. Not only that, she has been accepted as a woman into the club with open arms, and is currently now, as I understand it, she's the treasurer of the golf club.
Yeah, and where
what does that tell you?
Oh no, this is exactly. But one of the great old chestnuts, and it was probably more so in the US than here, was the bathroom conundrum. Has that disappeared, or was that never really an issue in Ireland?
No. Well, I mean, I can only speak
really,
from personal experience, and I've never had an issue, or I've never had a problem, or I've never had anybody say to me, "You shouldn't be in this place." Never. In fact, I've had people come up to me and say, "I admire you," or words to that effect. It's not such a big issue, and I'm not hooked on whether or not we should have. Gender neutral bathrooms. I'm not convinced about that, really.
Yeah. So one of the things, and I'm sure you weren't any more surprised than I, but just equally disappointed. There was a submission that I saw from 20 concerned citizens who never, their names are probably gone to the review board, but blah 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 blah, and we are concerned, and particularly one of the things they were concerned with, well, we don't like that person because they're involved with Tenny, and we don't like that person because they're involved with Belong To, we don't like that person. Were you surprised and were you disappointed by that?
Disappointed. Not surprised. I mean, you're always going to get people who will disagree with and I mean, haven't been involved in publicly over the years. I mean, I remember being in a radio studio and hearing the words that we were an abomination, that sort of thing. So, no, not surprised.
Last but by no means least, before we conclude, Claire, the medical service is a very important issue. There was always a concern that the HSE was a bit. It had a great deal to learn. What's the current status in your estimation?
Well, there's a great difficulty with people who are transitioning, getting to see the medics in the first place.
Okay.
There's a huge waiting list, and there are not sufficient medics working in this area, and it's frustrating for the people who are basically out there looking for recognition, looking to change their gender and all the rest of it, and they can't get to see a doctor. It's just not on.
Having said that, that's a common problem in the health services, isn't it?
Well, it is. Yeah. No, I've actually spoken to the Minister for Health personally about it, and
Claire, unfortunately, we are out of time. I'm going to say the one thing that will reassure you is that Miss Trans Israel was considered so gorgeous that she's going into the Miss Israel this year. So that's not bad. Claire Farrell, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I want to thank Hazel for doing such a fabulous job on the desk as always. We wish Aisling the best of health and be back in a couple of weeks' time. Claire, take care.
That I want to have a little pride in my world, and it's not a place I have to hide in. Life's not worth a damn till you can say I am.